Hi, and welcome to this edition of Spirit of the Valley. As usual, I've been very lucky to find someone who will really tell you an interesting story. And full disclosure, I work with her and for her. But this whole work of what we do is just compelling enough to want it to be aired. Donna Soltura, I'm sorry, I've said it wrong before. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here, that you were willing. She's a performer in her own right. I will give the name of the band if you want me to. So she isn't afraid of cameras and microphones, and that helps. But she's got so much to say about what she does so passionately. And Donna is the manager. No, that isn't what you... case manager?
Continuing care
manager. Palliative care department. You also have seen me with those people on, which is wonderful.
At Dartmouth Hitchcock.
At Hitchcock.
Medical
Oh, yeah.
Center.
No more Randolph. And Donna has agreed to come on because I have become a part of her bereavement team now. And I love what we do. And she is behind all of it in terms of how to do it right. You have a gift. I will say that. You wouldn't. And you just do it right, and you get us all to do it right, and I appreciate that. But tell me how you got into it in the beginning, because I know you have a long history of working with patients' families.
So the program that you're talking about is the bereavement program from the palliative care service at Dartmouth Hitchcock. That was a program that began its development in 2008. Mm-hmm. Just today I was looking at how many families we've served who have lost their family member.
Right.
It's over 1,760 people that we've lost. That's a lot of families that we've served.
It is. I don't think people have any sense of how that adds up.
Yeah. So it just feels like such an honor that families allow us into their lives at such an important time.
I agree.
They share their fears, they share their hopes, mm-hmm. They share their laughter and their love. They teach us every day. Mm-hmm. And I can say to a person on my team, including all of the volunteers that we're fortunate enough to work with, we feel honored.
I think that word is perfect for this work, whether it's from my viewpoint as a palliative care volunteer, but then spilling over into the bereavement. Both ways you get just an amazing amount of appreciation from them, not just that one thing, but it is an honor. As you said, they're in an amazing part of their life, and the families with them. And it is an honor to be able to be allowed in to comfort them, just chat with them, let them vent for you.
Yeah. A
lot of reasons.
I was thinking about, the presentation that you and a couple of the other volunteers did with me today to an audience of mostly intensive care unit nurses. Yep. And we all agreed that this person who's identified as the patient, often by the end of their life, is at peace with that, has accepted that, and really has come to a sincere place of peace. Mm-hmm. But their families are suffering because they think about being without them. And mm-hmm. when the bereavement volunteers call them as soon as possible after their loved one's death, mm-hmm. to just say, how are you? Mm-hmm. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Well, as you know, most people who are taking care of someone who's seriously ill don't take care of their own health care needs. Exactly. There was a big study written up in the Journal of American Medicine Association about that a few years ago, and they end up with lots of health problems. Yeah. So I know that one of the questions that you're asking them is, have you seen your own doctor? And then if that doctor is within our system, mm-hmm. we let that doctor know if this bereaved person who is their patient is not sleeping well.
Good, yeah.
And the doctors are very grateful for that.
Well, the link is strong. I mean, we really... They're blown away, frankly, by the fact that we're calling them at all. And they thought the care stopped at the door. And I think what is as meaningful for us as them, just because some of them we've known, not all, but we're able to remember this person as we sat with them in the hospital, and just to see, are they as strong as I thought they were when I met them, or are they struggling like anyone else? Yeah. And it's a wonderful window into them. But I think they don't expect it. everyone to a person will say, I can't believe you're still caring about me. I really appreciate this call. Very few don't do that.
I remember one man a couple of years ago that I called and said, you know, we're just calling to see how you're doing since the loss of your brother.
Yep.
And he and his wife were doing fine. But at the end of our call, he said, you know, I just can't believe that you called to see how we were doing.
Yep.
And then he stopped himself and said, well, of course I can believe it. You took such good care of my brother. Why wouldn't I think you'd take care of us too?
I just think people have never heard of it, and they don't understand that it can go on past the death.
Yes.
And I think it's what we try to instill as volunteers in palliative care to give them is continuity and the constant questioning of how are you doing. I mean, you know, I'm looking away from the bed now saying, how are you doing? Because you are a big part of this picture, and you may be taking a bigger hit because your vigilance and your hours and travel just wear you down.
Yeah.
So I think they don't get it, but they do get it, as what your man said.
And I think another important aspect of the calls is that we don't just call once at the beginning.
Right.
You know, when someone has died and the family flies in from everywhere and the neighbors bring casseroles and the pastor visits and everyone is around, after a little while, people go back to the routines they generally hold. And so it's important that we also call at 6 months.
Yep.
Studies have shown that people re-experience their grief, sometimes even at a deeper level, at about the 6-month mark. And then, of course, we call again at a year. I just feel thrilled to work with you all. The volunteers that I work with, I look forward to us getting together. And
yeah, it's a great group. But it is amazing that as you say, each time you call, you might get a different response or a different person speaking. And most of the people, I remember in my own family, that there's that big thud after the week after, when everyone has come and gone.
Yeah.
I remember I've had family that have said, oh man, I'm so lonely. They weren't allowed to be lonely and alone originally. And that's what they worry about. It isn't even as much as, I mean, they may have understood well what was happening and expected it, but the loneliness apart from the grieving is very powerful.
yeah, I've worked with a lot of families who say, how in the world are we going to do the holidays? What do we tell the rest of our family? What if I start crying?
Yep.
There was a young woman that I worked with, and we decided that she would write a letter to her family members to say, it's okay if I leave the room. You don't have to worry about should you come after me or not. It's okay if I cry during the meal. It's okay to talk about my husband. We all miss him.
Yep.
We should honor that.
Beautiful.
So I think that kind of connection that we can make with people. I mean, I know when you have said to somebody, when they say, I thought I was doing better than this, and now here I am 6 months later, and all of a sudden I'm really, really extra sad again, and I'm not sleeping well, and you say, you know, that's actually normal. And they have such a sense of relief.
I think in any case that a patient, whether it's a normal patient coming home from surgery or this scene, needs to know what can be expected. And if once you say everybody does that, they're fine.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real gift, that letter, because people don't want to tiptoe, but they think they should.
Right.
And I've learned that in sympathy cards, that I mention the person and an anecdote about them, and they say, and it feels right mentioning this person. I used to just little empty words. And now I've found that people really want to hear that you knew this person well. And you had an episode, I wrote a few episodes over the years, someone that made me laugh hysterically. And this person was so blown away by that fact that it made him laugh. It made him feel happy that I knew her that well.
Yeah.
I think there's so many new ways of doing this, and there always will be.
And our culture certainly does not feel, our culture doesn't want to talk about aging.
Exactly.
Never mind talk about death and dying. And we
Exactly.
certainly don't know what to do about it if the person who is dying was young.
Doesn't get worse.
You
than
know?
that.
Yeah. So,
And there are too many from infants up, and nothing's natural about that. I think you feel worse in those cases just automatically because no parent should bury a child, and that's Everybody feels that.
I always think it goes against nature.
It is. It's
Yeah.
unnatural at its worst.
Yeah.
But I think that the people, the variety of responses is fabulous. I mean, some of them are just, I wrote you recently that someone was a man that used only monosyllabic words. Just, yep, nope, yep. And I didn't try to pull him out anymore. He wasn't going to come out anymore. That was
Right.
who he was. But he answered my questions. I got a sense that he was fine. But at the end, after no words to speak of, he said, "Thank you so much for calling." And those were the best words I heard that whole call.
Yeah.
Because it meant something to him, even though he was kind of, yep, nope, yep. And it was just it's fun to see how those calls end, because most of them will show some gratitude for what you've just done.
Well, and I enjoy the different gifts that each of the volunteers brings to the conversations. Your communication styles are all different from
Yeah, I'm
each
sure.
other. You know, one of our team members feels like they like to find something in common
Yes.
with that person, like snowmobiling or
exactly.
canoeing or kayaking or something, and they start on that level. I just love hearing the ways that you all do it.
And we learn our different ways when we're volunteering with the patient still alive. And we have notes that tell us what our hobbies are and what his interests are, so that we can get to know them that way. Sometimes that's the icebreaker that works with someone who isn't totally talking with you, but you mention something he's passionate about, and that's a real
Yeah.
gift to know that part.
How's his dog doing?
Yeah, I hear you have
Yeah.
a dog. I have one too. What kind
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically very basic stuff, but if they connect with you and then respond to you and feel like you've made them happy, or they've made you happy some of the time,
Yeah.
that you can leave the room feeling pretty darn good about what you just did. And not just for your sake, but you've made them feel good.
Yeah.
So more talking then maybe than with some other people.
Right. I think the thing we think about when we're in clinical relationships with people is people have friends, they have family.
Yeah.
Those are mutual relationships. They give and receive,
Right.
give and receive. When people talk with us, they don't have to give anything to us. They don't have to take care of us. It can be liberating. They can go ahead
Yeah.
and talk about what they're really concerned about
Yep.
without worrying that it's going to turn our apple carts over.
Exactly.
And so I think that's
It's true.
There's freedom in that.
There's a lot of venting that goes on. Sometimes the family, and I've asked people honestly, how are you really? Because you're the one staying up at night and worrying. And they will often, I've had several recently that have said, "Oh man, I'm so tired." And they would never say that to the patient.
yeah,
They don't want
Right.
to sound like they're not enjoying it.
right.
But with us, they will say things that they won't say to them. And I think that's a great relief and a great venting situation for them. And they need that.
I think when someone's grieving and you call them
Yep.
and they can say those things to you, I think that's I think you can help them reframe it.
Yes.
Too, where someone will say, you know, if only I had made him go to the doctor earlier. If only this, if only that, I should have.
Yes.
And we can sort of talk that out with people and say, okay, how would he have felt about, would it have even worked?
Yeah.
You know, would you have been able to make him go to a
Exactly.
doctor, you know, if
Exactly.
he didn't want to? But I find that reframing for people gives them a chance to look at it again and
Yeah.
maybe let it go.
I think that's true, because the guilt is, we all know, is destructive and not worth it, but we
Serves
all
no
have
purpose.
it. We all have it. And I think that when you told a story today of someone that just stepped out of the room briefly and their loved one died in that moment. And it's very hard to make people give that up. I'm not a professional, but I play one on TV. We try to find ways, I know I do try to find ways to turn it around a bit and just say, you should feel proud of everything you did for that person while he was alive.
Yeah.
That's all I can say to you, is that you be proud, not guilty.
Or we can say, what would John say to that? What would John say right
Oh,
now
yeah.
if he could talk with you about that?
Yep.
And yeah, I think,
He wouldn't want you feeling guilty, that's for sure.
yeah, and they probably, and they
But
can,
you let them answer it.
yeah, that he would be appreciative,
Yeah,
that he would have done the same for you.
absolutely.
That what you did was you modeled for your children how to do this.
Yeah, that's a great point right there.
Yeah,
Because the kids are usually involved one way or another, or they're at least hearing about it or seeing you begin to grieve.
Yeah.
And they need to know that you your mom or whoever did everything right, everything she could possibly do. And that's, again, why we go back and ask them how they're doing, because they have totally forgotten everything about themselves, which is lovely at the time, but there's a downside to that.
Yeah.
If you don't, and everyone I've talked to, except a few, have said, yeah, I actually saw him the other day. And I said, I bet you put it off quite a while you were taking care of him. She said, yeah, but I'm back on track.
Oh, saw their own doctor?
Yeah, I'm back on track.
Yeah.
And they're very honest. They have nothing to lose by being honest with us, because we aren't judging or prying or anything. We're just showing that we care for them. I think that's what you want to hear.
And then that caring for them, I mean, our own grief. And, you know, you and I know that we get to talk to each other and just say, boy, you know, these losses are hard. This hit me especially hard today.
Yep.
Or here's, you know, where we have turned to each other and say, help me through this.
Exactly.
Because this hurts.
And that's why it's good to practice on each other, and that isn't really practice, because we are helping each other. You know, a case I'm dealing with that I feel so awful every day on this patient's family.
Right.
And I just want to reach out as much as I can. I've put everything out I could on Facebook, and I've known this girl since middle school. And
this is a personal friend
yeah,
of yours,
and
not one of our bereaved
I just want
patients.
them to, I'm trying to help her with tough times.
Yeah.
And you can only do so much. They know you love them and they know you're there, but they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you just stay in touch. That's really my answer, because she's got enough friends around that will be there, but they can't all help her. Big difference.
You know, I was thinking earlier about the service of remembrance that we do quarterly, and I think that the families that come to that are surprised when our chaplain, Linda Piotrowski, says to them, we are going to do a ritual with you now that our team does every week.
Yeah.
And I think families are surprised, and I think they're touched to think that every week, privately, as a team, we speak the name of every person that we know died that week, that we were serving, that we put that little golden paper star into the bowl, and that we have a moment of silence for each and every person. This work matters to us.
It matters, and I think
people matter to us.
I think they're surprised on one level that they haven't ever heard of this anywhere. They didn't ever think this would be the kind of care they would get post-event, but I think they're beginning to really get that. At the last one, I was talking to 3 people of a family, and they'd driven a ways to get there. I brought a picture, and at the end of it, I had a long talk with them, and one of them just grabbed my arm and just said, oh, thank you so much for this and everything you've done up until now. And it was such a bear grip, I didn't think I was leaving. But he was passionate, he really got it, and he really, on every level, realized what had been done for his family.
Doesn't it feel like we get so much more than we give? People say, how do you do this work?
Oh,
and
I
I
think
how could I not do this work?
Once you've done it.
I'm so grateful to these families.
And I think that is true with every one of us that I know. It's just, we don't go there to feel good, but we end up feeling good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people wouldn't think you could feel good in some of the cases we are involved with, but you can feel what it's done on the other end in some small way.
It's such a connection. You know, we can stand in an elevator and not make eye contact and not talk at all. Exactly. And yet we go into the room of a complete stranger when they're in the hospital, and we sit down and say, how are you? And they really tell us. You know, I think at Dartmouth Hitchcock, we've got a wonderful program going from the support services in the Cancer Center. Deb Steele has a couple of grants that pay for a creative writer to come and help patients write poems or stories or letters or that sort of thing. Our harpist, who has learned to play country music on the harp, because her first day somebody said, I'd like some old-fashioned country music, so she went home and learned it. And also a visual artist, a painter who comes in and says, tell me your favorite place. And as the patient is talking about it, Rebecca's painting it.
It's amazing what she does.
Yeah.
All of them. I mean, the Reiki,
so
the whole thing.
We wouldn't stop that care when someone died.
This will go on forever, because everyone involved will see that that it does, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a giving thing. The teams get along well because their bond is so strong with what they do. You have so much in common with them, whether you know them well or not. We're having a get-to-know-me party in Wendy's office, and we're all doing filling them out. I suggested after reading Linda's that this is something we do for patients. In palliative care, we have a poster that goes up in their room, and it has lots of questions about them that would help the staff and volunteers and the doctors and social workers get inside them a little more, as what their books, their music, their favorite this and that. How do I best react? What method do you prefer to be spoken to? And pictures. And it is one of the most friendly things that I see, and there are people that will take the pictures and they'll be branching off. It'll look like a big old oak tree by the time they get finished, and they really take advantage of it. And everyone walks in and says, "Oh my gosh, you like that? I like that."
Yeah.
Whether it's a nurse, an orderly, a transport person. So there's a lot of things that make this pretty unique.
Yeah.
That I imagine isn't quite like this in most places.
I have
Many
to say that
places.
we've laughed over the fact that I've been doing this work, I don't know, 20 years, and with our bereavement volunteer group, that we all still say, the moment before we pick up the phone to call somebody to say, "How are you doing?" we're all nervous.
I know.
I'm nervous,
It's
you're
true.
nervous, we're all nervous.
It's true.
And you almost think, "Oh, don't answer." But you pick up that phone and say, "Hi, I'm from palliative
Right.
care, and I'm just calling to see how you're doing since
Right.
John's death."
Right.
And the nervousness is gone,
And so is theirs.
and you're just connecting with another person. You're just connecting.
And sometimes it's the longest call they'll have, because some of them really take advantage of it in a wonderful way and just let it all out.
Yeah.
And I've had a few that just couldn't stop crying. And I said, "Don't ever stop. I mean, it's a very natural thing to be doing, and I'm glad you feel comfortable doing it with me around,
Yeah.
even though we're 2 states apart." It's very open.
Right, and we're talking about the grief aspect of it, but certainly we've had people who say, you know, now that my husband's gone, I only get my Social Security check, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for heating fuel over the winter.
Yeah.
Or I have a grandchild that I'm concerned about, and she's 6. What words do we use? How do we talk to
Yeah.
her? Someone else, you know, just saying maybe their family's not getting along,
Right.
you know, so well. How do I do that? How can I bridge that? And so I think that we've been able to reach out and give people some different ideas to consider in many, many different ways.
Yeah, and I think that somehow, even though we aren't trained in this the way you are, it comes out naturally. It's a conversation. It's not a big sterile place where you don't dare use the wrong words.
Right.
You just find the words.
This is your neighbor.
Yeah.
You're calling your
And you
neighbor.
can pretend that. I've never called anyone yet that I've known. And that's an even better test, because you don't have anything in common from your visits. So that's another good way I find it even almost easier, because I'm just meeting them new, and I like doing that.
Yeah.
We've talked ourselves right into our 5-minute mark. Oh dear. I really was going to ask you too, just in a nutshell, how you got into this field.
Oh gosh, I always wanted to be a social worker. I
good.
was in Connecticut. I went to Fordham University for my master's degree with my little son in tow.
Oh,
they called us transitional students then. It meant older.
I know.
And then this job opened up in Vermont at Gifford Hospital in Randolph. I came up here. Most of the folks I worked with in the hospital were older. And then I went to work for the visiting nurses. Eventually became manager of their hospice program.
Oh, yeah.
And then my medical director came over to Dartmouth-Hitchcock and said, "Come on, this is a really great team. We could do something here." And I went over and worked under the direction of Dr. Ira Byock, who's an internationally
Who deserves a halo over his
respected
head. Yeah.
palliative care physician.
What a lucky break.
Yes, I just, every day I'm grateful for the work.
I think everyone is. And you can tell people in wherever you are, his name is known. And that's what's
Yes.
fun.
Yeah.
I think he's given us a lot of gifts of his. I was writing to him recently about that, and I said, I think you've instilled a lot of the good in us that will let us carry on.
Yeah.
And that's true. And I think we have a team that'll it'll change, obviously, something's going to change like that, but he just has a way of, and we read his books, we've all read all his books, and got something from every one of them, because you cannot ever not get better at something. And that's why I love to come to all your little educational, whatever they are, things, because I just want to keep learning it. It's a wonderful place to be.
Well, I think he perfectly phrased it in the title of his last book. All we want to do, it's the best care possible.
Exactly.
That's what we want to give, the best care
It's the
possible.
most appropriate, apt title for a book that ever happened, because he showed everyone how to do that.
Yeah.
And that continues. They're still getting the best care possible, and they're not hesitant to tell you, because they continue to tell us how they didn't ever have any trust issues, they never had any problem, and their loved ones were kept comfortable, and all the things that you want for your loved one in terms of dignified, graceful way to exit.
Yeah.
And I think not that that can't be done everywhere else, it's just not done the way we do it, and we think we're the best. But anyway, I do feel that way, and I think I'm lucky to be part of it, and with you too, because it's a most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I was in special ed for years, and I thought that was, and it was.
Yes.
But this has now replaced that. It's just because I'm not doing that anymore, but this is my new rewarding career.
Well, I
you
appreciate
can-
your
you can-
being there
Oh, I
for
love it.
us, for the people we
It's
serve.
great. It's great. Well, we've just about done it. When you get someone on, folks, that knows what she's talking about and can talk, and she can, I mean that positively. This is one of those fastest half hours ever, and I credit you for that, because you don't have to pull anything out of you. It comes out. But I think people listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this, folks, because there's so many myths and kind of background things that happen with patients at every course, every level, and a lot of people don't know really what a good bereavement program can be. And I hope you've learned something. I hope this has resonated with you, and we can always use more volunteers. I'm going to plug shamelessly here that we can. I mean, if you are comfortable with patients in hospitals and such, and have some compassion and understanding about, if you come in and be a volunteer first with palliative care, and then slide over the way I did, because they go together.
Yes.
And one is just an extension of the other, and it's valuable, fascinating, rewarding work, and you'll feel so good at the end of a night of calling or end of a volunteer day. That's the best day of the week sometimes.
Yeah.
So I thank you, Donna. You are so good at this, and it really, glad I didn't have to twist your arm either. I just had to get you in and out of dinner fast tonight. I'll hear about that at some point. But tell us a website, email for you, or if anyone wanted to talk to you about this?
Sure. If you're interested in looking at the No One Alone volunteer program that visits patients in the hospital and in our outpatient cancer center, or interested in talking about becoming a bereavement volunteer, I hope that you will give us a call. The palliative care is at 603-650-5402. And just call and express your interest to one of our folks who answers the phone, and we'd love to get back to you and talk about that.
Yeah, and it's a good program. It's a great training program, because you get lots and lots of training. All of this team will be a speaker at some point during that 6-week program. You get videos to watch so you can see, and we actually are going to use the video I did here with the palliative girls as part of the training, because it describes what a day looks like.
Great.
Of ours. And so don't hesitate. If you want to learn about a really rewarding situation as a volunteer, yeah, we don't pay you, but you get paid in so many ways that it doesn't matter. Please give us a call, and those contact numbers will be up on the screen. So I don't know why I'm telling them that, because by the time this is out, they're up on the screen. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this. It was great that you could. And thank you guys so much out there, whether you're 2 or 102, we don't know, and we don't care. If we reach any of you and can make a difference in teaching you things, that's what we're here for. So don't hesitate to holler. Either my email will be up there as well. New show ideas, I love them. So thank you so much, and thank you all for watching. See you next time.